Hello, this is Bill Warner, and we are now in week 3. And week 3 is all about creation. It's the creation of your product and service and proving that the concept of it really is going to work. Let's get on with it. With respect to the 6 steps to success ladder, you're standing now on step 3. This is the time to start the research and development of a product or service and prove that customers really want it and are actually likely to buy it. And that's what your mentoring is going to be all about. So we're moving up the ladder here. Let's get into the subject of creation. The transition to this creation step is fairly straightforward. In steps 1 and 2, you spent a lot of time describing the problem and the solution, and went on in step 2 to talk about your market and the competitors and your buyer and how you're going to win in the marketplace. Now in creation, you're going to actually get down to the nuts and bolts of creating a product and services description in detail by feature by feature by feature, or service capability by capability, and then explain the customer benefits that accrue from all of these features that you're providing. Not only what it does, but the quantifiable benefit it brings to the customer. And then we're going to close it up by determining the proof of concept. Is it commercially feasible? That is it going to make it in the marketplace or not, do we think? And is it technically feasible? Is it a product that can be actually developed, or a service that can actually be put together as a methodology? And if so, we'll move on to step 4. So the first thing we have to do is actually describe the product or service that's going to be offered. This is the details of the solution you talked about in step 1 and 2. You describe the most important features, not every single nuance of every feature. You're not going through a design specification or an end user interface review or anything like that. You're describing what it does, and really the main points, the main features that bring benefit to the customer. So explain what each one of them does for the customer, from the customer's point of view, not yours. Then relate each of these features back to the problem it solves that you talked about in step 1 and 2. And show that you've met all the customer needs. It's simple as that. So you're going to find that this is the case throughout this 10-week program, and that you're going to build upon information that you've provided in previous steps. So now we're getting down to the nuts and bolts of how your product or service really meets the needs of the customer. Now, customer benefits are something quantifiable. You can describe it in words, and you can get a picture of how the features of your product or service benefit the customer. You got to take it to another level and get down to what is the quantifiable benefit that it really brings. Does it lower costs? Does it reduce expense? Does it improve some process efficiency that in turn will lower cost or expense? Or does it increase sales? It's got to be something that can be added up and calculated as a return on the investment they made in your product or service in the first place. So quantify these benefits as best you can. It's a real challenge, but it makes you think about why in blazes would they want to buy your product or engage with you on your service if it didn't bring them some quantifiable benefit. It's really important to figure this out. Okay, now we're going to get down to the nuts and bolts of proving that what you have just written really is true from the point of view of the customers. You're going to determine, do the customers really want it? Does the product work from their vantage point? Does the service methodology work? And you're going to validate that they indeed had the problem you said they did, that your solution solves that problem from their point of view, and that your product or service truly brings them quantifiable benefit. So, do customers want it or not? Well, let's do a market survey and ask them. Seems pretty simple, doesn't it? That's what we're going to do. And that's what you should do. Meet the white of the eyes of the people that you think are going to buy your product or service. And find out, do they really have the problem you cite? Do they need it? Do they need your solution or not? Do they really want to fix this problem? Because there are a lot of problems that people have and they don't fix them. They may not have the money to do so, or it may not be that much of a pain. They have other problems and other priorities than to fix this problem you're talking about. You got to find that out. Do they want to fix it now? A lot of people say, sure, I want to fix it, but you want to know, do they want to fix it now, not sometime in the future, or maybe never? And do they have the budget to spend on it? You got to find these things out. Add any other relevant questions that you might want to ask them in this market survey, and ask enough to get a pattern of these responses. And if you do 20, 25 of these market surveys with customers that are in the market that you're going after, not something else, stay true to that. You'll soon see the pattern of these answers and have a good feel of whether or not you're on the right track or that you have to change direction. Okay, there are additional questions. So here's a few more, but you think of some as well. But to further test the feasibility, you can ask them pricing sensitivity questions, getting a feel for what the allowable price is going to be to offer the solution that you do to solve the problem they have. Find out about the acceptability of your sales channel. Are you picking the right way to actually sell? Should it be direct? Should it be through indirect channels? Get a feel for the acceptability of the delivery approach and how the product is actually going to arrive and how it's installed and maintained and how updates are provided. Did they agree with the value to them? Yes or no? So ask enough to get a pattern of responses. So again, you'll get a pretty strong indication of whether or not you're on the right track with your product and service definition. Proving whether or not a product works or not is a little more difficult than meets the eye, because it often entails the development of the product, and that can cost money. But there are methods to prove the concept. You can, the least expensive are design walkthroughs, where you're taking a prospective customer through how the product is going to work with pictures and scenarios defined on how it's used. Second is you can embellish that with screenshots and walk through them and how the human interface is presented to the customer and get feedback there. In the case of software, where it's software functionality, and if you're an agile advocate, you can develop a minimum viable product, something that is functional, but yet is not the final product and is enough to show what the functionality is, so you can get some feedback from a customer. The most expensive form, though, is where you have a product that needs to be made through manufacturing, where you have to build a prototype. Now we're getting into tens of thousands of dollars of prototype development, but that's what you got to do if you got a thing you're developing, and it requires some manufacturing in order to produce it in the first place. Proving the concept of a service methodology, that is the performance of a service, is a whole lot easier and wholly less expensive than a product or an online service where a lot of software development is required. This is a methodology. It's the way a person in a business is providing a service to a customer. So you can test this out by, first of all, creating the methodology, sell it to someone, or two or three or four, actually perform the service for real, execute it. Upon learning how it works and how it has to be improved, refine it, and then go do it again, and then another time. And pretty soon you've got this methodology well thought out and actually developed so that you can make it generally available and market it actively. When you were working on the business concept, you did your own assessment of competitiveness, did a competitive analysis. Now is the time to figure out, was that competitive analysis correct or not? You're going to validate the product or service by literally asking them and confirming that your competitive claims are valid. They're going to tell you yes or no, and you're going to learn a lot about what they think about your competitors, information you need to know. Secondly, you're going to validate the benefits that you think you're bringing them. And you're going to get down and real about that and go through your calculations with them as to what you think the benefits are, and let them tell you what you missed or what is correct as well. So you can hone in on both of these issues directly with your customer. Really valuable information. So now you've gone through all of this. It's time to further refine your product description. Fix the things that need to be fixed, of course, and resolve the challenges to your claims that you learn from these potential customers. Deal with all those things that weren't accepted by them. In some cases, they're not going to buy into what you're trying to sell them. You've got to figure out what you're going to do. Answer the questions you couldn't answer, because you're going to get asked again, and update the product and services that you're going to be developing before you launch the product. So now that you've gotten through this proof of concept, it's time to get on with describing your development plan for your product or service. All the way from product design through technology, components, specifications of the design, interfaces between components, protocols, all the required standards, if any, regulatory requirements that you have to satisfy, if any, and identifying the facilities, the people, the tools you're going to need to do the development, a timeline, and the milestones you're going to have to meet over the course of the development schedule, whatever development partners, you ought to call out them as well, and finally figure out the expense of of the development itself. Of course, a product is going to be quite expensive. A service is going to be quite inexpensive, but you still need to do this kind of work in order to finish the definition of your product or service. And after the development plan, then you've got to figure out how this product or service is going to be rolled out to the customer. What is the delivery method? How does the customer select the features that they want and not select the ones they don't want? What are the installation requirements? How is all that going to be done? Are there any customizations that are going to have to be done for the usage of your product? How is maintenance and how are upgrades going to be provided? Is there any warranty that you're going to be offering? And what's the ongoing support scheme you're going to use to deal with customer questions and customer issues? Some of you may have to deal with the value of your intellectual property and describe the need for its protection. This is usually software or hardware or underlying component technology. Sometimes a design method can be protected as well, but whatever it is, you need to document a plan as needed. Not all of you are going to need this for protection as trade secrets, or the more elaborate protection under patent through the U.S. Patent Office, copywriting information, and the trademarks of the brand name and other key names that you're going to be using in the course of the marketing of your product. You should consult, of course, an intellectual property attorney to consider this in a correct way. Many people don't think of it this way, but every business really has a supply chain, and you know, kind of map it out as to how your supply chain is going to be deployed and how you're going to manage it. But you think about it, your company could have sales partners, it could have support partners, it could have servicers and partners in the performance of services. You could have outside developers. If you're manufacturing something, you have raw materials or parts or components. You may have outsourced manufacturing to deal with. You have distribution channels and warehousing to deal with, and the list goes on. These things you got to start laying out and describe in your business plan what your supply chain map looks like, and who are all these relationships and how they're going to be established and managed. Unfortunately, sometimes customer support is kind of left in the background, and it's something that can really burn you in the long run if you don't handle this well. But you start with, what is your brand promise? What does your brand mean with respect to supporting the customer? What are your guarantees? What are your warranties? And how will you offer them? How will you handle returns in the case of products? These are big deals. And how will customer support actually be provided? Particularly for online businesses, you want to have lots and lots of support on your website so human beings don't have to answer telephones and emails. You want a lot of that done automatically. So figure this out so that you don't have customer support costs going through the roof. At this point in the development of your business, it's okay to talk about the possibility of future products and future services that you might be able to offer. That shows that you're thinking ahead, that you have additional market opportunities, either derivatives of your current product or service, or new channels that you can take your products through, or new markets you can attack, whatever it might be. Talk about them briefly, but get back to your knitting. Stay focused on the initial opportunity. That's what your financiers and your partners and your employees and everyone else looking at your business want to know, that you know how to be successful in this first market initiative that you're going to engage in. Funding for this creation step is sometimes a challenge. Of course, for a service, it's quite easy, but if you have to build something, software or hardware, you're going to need some money. So if you got money yourself, God love you, you can bootstrap the whole thing and pay for it out of your own pocketbook. Not everybody can do that. The next thing you should consider is going to private individuals. Yes, you've heard the term friends and family and fools sometimes, but these are people that know you, trust you, believe in your word, that you have high integrity, and that you have a full intent of taking care of them. You're not going to go to people that don't know you, because it'll take forever for you to convince them that you know what you're talking about. So private individuals, friends and family, past business associates, selected angel organizations or angel investors who invest in the seed round of a company, the very early pre-proof of concept phase of a business. Thirdly, crowdfunding, particularly donation-based crowdfunding alternatives could be available to you. And if you're a company, it could be a nonprofit, but a for-profit company as well, can get grants from the U.S. government and other foundations that are interested in moving technology or moving forward a cause that's important to them. So grant avenues are open to you as well. So consider all of these appropriately for your business and which one is going to work best for you. Okay, here's the next steps. So in class or in your mentoring session, discuss the business concept template and the concept feasibility test that you had for homework. Discuss also your personal vision statement. That's kind of important. It helps you set the culture of your company. You're the one that's going to do it. And update and be prepared to present your elevator pitch in the next class. But for the next session, complete the creation template, complete the corporate structure template, provide them to your mentor, of course, and discuss in the next mentoring session, as well as updating your elevator pitch for the next class. You again may have the opportunity to present it. Okay, that's the end of this module. Now, if you have questions, go ahead and contact your instructor mentor, and your choices for doing that are: you can email your instructor at innovationcenter@faytech.edu. You can make a call at 910-678-8496. And you can schedule a meeting with your mentor in the virtual office on Blackboard. You can also post a question on Question for My Mentor discussion forum and have others participating in the answer to the question. It's a good way of sharing information amongst participants. But please note that you should not post a question that is divulging confidential information. That would open up that confidential information to others to read. So be forewarned there. So that's it. Get your homework done. Look forward to talking to you in the next class.